Welcome aboard, and thank you for flying with us. The happiness and entertainment of our passengers is our #1 priority. So, as we prepare to start, please pay close attention to this important event information. All other browser tabs and windows should be securely minimized at this time, either on a separate monitor or in the taskbar below. And your Teams window should be in the fully maximized position. Please make sure you have Fit to Frame. To do this, right-click on Me and select Fit to Frame for the best possible view. Please remain seated with your muting on. Should you have a question at any time, press the Raise Hand button in the panel above. Our flight crew is on standby to answer your questions. In the likely event you hear something funny or interesting, a Reactions feature is located above. To use, hover over the icon until the menu is fully extended. Firmly select your reaction, and please remember to get your reaction sent before others. Poll questions are also likely. If this happens, vote in the poll, either on the screen in front of you or in the chat compartment to your right. Accessibility regulations require the availability of captioning in every Microsoft event. In Microsoft Teams, select More, then Language and Speech, and finally turn on live captions. If there is a loss of internet and you're disconnected from the meeting, a post-event email will guide you to the recording and the slide deck. Our chat tab is clearly marked with a speech bubble. Please take a moment to find the tab, and remember, we want to hear from you. Throughout our flight, please let us know if you have any questions. And finally, before you disembark, please take a moment to complete our post-event survey card, which will be linked to you at the end of the flight. We know you have a lot of choices when attending a webinar, and we thank you for choosing Microsoft Copilot with Ingram Micro. Now, as we prepare for takeoff, please settle in and have a wonderful flight.
Straight to the top, never going down, don't wait for the drop. Stand still, that's the motto, yeah. Brand new bands for the auto, oh. Foot to the ground, full throttle. Big energy for the night like lotto. Y'all talk lots, never this quiet. Life like a Seinfeld plot. Vault full of songs, all of them bombs. Something like a minefield guy, boom. Get it, tickets running out quick. Bet it, never get it out big. Said it, never had to shout it. They said I couldn't ever do it, okay, how's this? Fit a week worth of work in a minute. Machine well oiled, you know how I stay efficient. To-do list written, I do this different. Hold up, wait a minute, I ain't finished. Okay. Look, flows the same now. Paved the way, the snakes and fakes are chased out. Back to back to back, I changed the pace now. Had to stack the cash until the bank's out. Straight to the top, never going down, don't wait for the drop.
Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Jared Marino, and I will be your captain and guide to Microsoft Copilot for Microsoft 365. This is the license, the one that is getting so much attention, so much enthusiasm from so many people in this session. Whether you're new to it or you've had some experience with it, we're going to introduce you to Copilot for Microsoft 365, how it works, what is involved in getting our customers equipped with it, some examples of how it can be used, and much more. You heard my pre-flight safety briefing just a moment ago, but to reiterate for you, I very much value your participation, your questions. So please, please, please definitely let us know in the chat if you have any questions. I'm also seeing here a first question, and thank you for that, Carl. Question was, this was supposed to be about Copilot PCs for Dell. What happened? A very valid question. Unfortunately, we were not able to receive the content from Dell in time. So if you have seen this session and it is repeat for you, I understand if it is not what you are seeking. If you've originally registered for that event, don't worry. We are going to be bringing you that event as soon as we receive the content from Dell and we are ready to go. So the team still wanted to delight you all with this session on Microsoft Copilot for Microsoft 365. So that is now the new topic of this. You should have seen that come to you in an announcement. A lot of you have registered since we have made that change and are expecting this content today, and it's one of my favorites, actually. I don't know if you could tell. So I'm grateful for the chance to bring you this session. But if you're looking for those Copilot Plus PCs, don't you worry. We're going to have many more sessions that cover those topics from all of the different manufacturers, Dell and beyond. But in our session today, here is what we are looking to get into in our time. First and foremost, I want to go through introducing you to Copilot, a bit about how Copilot works, the back-end mechanics to it. We're going to show Microsoft Copilot in action, some slides that kind of walk through that material, and then how we position and sell Microsoft Copilot to our customers. So let's go ahead and start. What on earth is this Microsoft Copilot business? I know we've been talking about this for a while, so I don't want to insult your intelligence. I know a lot of you have some background understanding of this, but a couple of things that I want to point out as we kick off our session here. We had conducted our Work Trend Annual Index. We do this every year. And some of the things that we had found is that employees are not spending enough time doing actual creating. So much of it is spent just keeping each other informed and working on tasks that they don't have the time or energy to do. In fact, when we survey them more, we have kind of a dueling statistic here where 49% of people say they're worried that AI will replace their jobs, but at the same time, in that same study of those same people, 70% say, hey, I will delegate as much work as possible to AI if it helps to lessen our workload. Employers, from their side, are saying that we're going to need new skills, including analytical judgment, emotional intelligence, AI prompting, and more, in order to take full advantage of this. This is an exciting time for AI, and especially as it relates to Microsoft. And we've rolled out Copilots for just about everything. There's a Copilot for GitHub, for security, for sales, for service, and much, much more. I want to show you a brief comparison between a couple of the Copilots that we have. There's the free version that you get going to the website or by using Copilot in Windows. There's a special elevated plan that is called Copilot Pro, but both of these are for individuals. When we're talking about our commercial customers and positioning this with them, we want to look at what's there for organizations. So Copilot for free could be used whenever someone signs in with that Microsoft 365 account. Everything they say to Copilot is not saved. It is not used to train the model. That data resides with them, so using company information when talking to Copilot is okay for them to do. But the main thing that we're talking about here that includes all of these features is Copilot for Microsoft 365, our topic today. So let me dive into exactly what this is. We have our large language models, and you've probably seen these. Maybe you've interacted with ChatGPT and more. For those of you who are not as familiar with a large language model, the way that it operates is you have a computer program essentially that knows every single word and how every word relates to every other word. And when you have that, you essentially have intelligence. You have something that can reason and interpret. When we take that knowledge and then we give it the data of a customer's organization, things that we find inside of the Microsoft Graph, which I'll get to in just a moment, their emails, their chats, and more, excuse me, we can create a very powerful resource that can get people the answers they need really quickly, even if it's own internal knowledge that doesn't exist in the web or in training. Then we add that to our Microsoft 365 applications, and magic can happen. I want to emphasize, though, that making sure that we're doing this in a responsible way is both the responsibility of Microsoft as well as our customers. So we want to make sure that we are protecting, of course, the production environment and the things that power Copilot, which I'll show you here in just a bit. But our customers, and by extension you who's helping our customers, need to make sure that access to AI apps is set up correctly, that the data that is entered is controlled and protected, and that users have accountability for their use of AI. Data hygiene and making sure that the right data labels are applied is very important when we talk about this, and it is on the customer to make sure that Susan from HR doesn't have that one Excel spreadsheet with everyone's salaries that is not protected and then gets indexed by Copilot, and suddenly Copilot can answer some very difficult questions. We want to make sure that all of that is protected. That is an important part of how we do this. So that is a bit here about meeting Copilot. Now I want to tell you a bit more about how exactly Copilot works. Earlier, I was referencing the Microsoft Graph. This is a newer term, so if you're not familiar with it, that's perfectly fine. However, we have everything the customer environment and tenant has inside of it. The calendars, every Teams chat you've ever sent, the entire catalog of everyone who works there, the address list, every email that you've ever sent and received, every document that you have access to through SharePoint or OneDrive, and anything that's been published on the company's SharePoint sites and beyond, all in this one area called the graph. It's very sensitive information. It's the heart of the data that belongs to that organization in the cloud. When we talk about Microsoft 365 and the Copilot that powers it, we're talking about the service boundary as the protection mechanism. Service boundary has always been there. Way before Copilot exists, this is how we authenticate users. Everything that sits in there is not accessible to Microsoft and our employees. It is there protected by the customer. So everything in this boundary here is completely protected. So when the user submits a prompt to Copilot, that then goes through a process called pre-processing and grounding. It's going to enhance the user's prompt with information that's contained inside of the Microsoft Graph. And so from here, the content, context of everything that they've done is added, and then that modified prompt is given to the large language model. Now, we partner with OpenAI, the company that makes ChatGPT, to provide some of the most latest and innovative technologies that power these models. But one thing I want to emphasize is that OpenAI has no control over the model that we use for Copilot. Copilot's model is owned and housed by Microsoft, custom-tuned by our own AI engineers. So the underpinning technology is there, but we created what's within it. Similar to how we make Windows, but a developer who makes their app for Windows, they wouldn't say that Microsoft owns that. Similar model here. So we retain that control, and then the access and interaction with the model is all within the Microsoft 365 service boundary, as you see here. After that happens, the large language model will generate a response, and that's fed back to the Microsoft Graph. Again, reason, we want to make sure that that user has access to all this information, double checking all of the data governance that's involved. Copilot cannot tell someone something that they don't already have access to. That if we don't have that, we have nothing. So it's very important that we get that right. Checking again with the Microsoft Graph, checking for compliance and purview is really a key step before we can send that response back to the user. If you've been following AI, you'll know that there's lots of talk about prompt engineering and making the best AI prompt. I'm not here to give you an entire course on prompt engineering. However, there are some best practices that we've identified as to how we can create our most impactful prompt for Microsoft Copilot. I have a couple of key things. I've dissected a prompt here on the right side of your screen. We want to start with the goal. Generate 3 to 5 bullet points. Great. So Copilot immediately knows what the output that you're requesting is. Then the context. We don't often think about giving a computer context. A computer is often just a quick, here's what I need, get me that thing, here's that thing, perfect. We actually have to reason with the computer. We have to explain why and what we are doing to get the best responses possible. So in this example, generate 3 to 5 bullet points to prepare me for a meeting with client X to discuss their Phase 3+ brand campaign. Well, it's going to then search the graph for client X. It's going to search the graph for Phase 3 brand campaign. And then I can say, well, here's some sources. Let's say that this Phase 3 brand campaign took a big turn back in June. Well, it is June now, but imagine. So I can say, focus on email and Teams chats since June. Well, in that instance, it'll only show me things from this month, which is really useful. Then I can set expectations. Please use simple language so I can get up to speed quickly. Please speak like a Shakespearean pirate. We can really prompt it to do whatever we want. But this is the format that we see has the most success. There's a couple of other key points here that we have found. One, we want to know the limitations. This is still early in the product cycle for Copilot. Even though we have it out, it is sellable today. There is things that it cannot do yet. So keeping that in mind, we can get somewhat carried away with thinking Copilot is almost like a person and capable of anything. And let me tell you, it's capable of a lot. But there are still some limitations. We want to speak clearly. We want to start a fresh chat if we are switching topics so we don't confuse the AI. Quotation marks are considered heavily. So if we want to specify something very clearly, using quotation marks can really help. I like this one. I think this is really impactful. Be professional to Copilot. Sometimes we think, oh, it's a computer program. It doesn't have feelings. So we're not going to go talk to it. I can speak however I want to that Copilot. Here's the catch. It was trained on us. It was trained on our words, our actions, and societal norms and standards that we use as a species. That was the training set. And that's how it understands how to respond. So if someone speaks to you very rudely and bluntly and with disrespect, and they ask you to do something, well, Copilot will always do it, but the degree to which it will do it will vary based on your level of professionalism. It's something that AI researchers are still studying to understand. But because it was based on that training data, if you ask it nicely, it gives more verbose responses, goes a little bit more out of its way to get you those answers. If someone is rude or disrespectful to Copilot, still gives an answer, but we found it's much more brief and not as comprehensive. So, an interesting thing there. It's also just good for us as humans to get in the practice, even if it's talking to a computer, of just speaking with professionalism and respect. How does this work functionally? I want to talk to you a bit about something called the semantic index. This is built for each individual employee as soon as they are assigned a Copilot license. I have a brief video that explains a bit about what this is and why it's important. Take a look.
Creates a sophisticated map of your personal and company data, identifying relationships and making important connections. In fact, your brain works like a semantic index by encoding multiple words and pictures to create a larger conceptual map of information. For example, a semantic map of what the average person knows about elephants would include things like elephants have trunks, and elephants travel in herds, and elephants live in Africa. Today, people are mostly familiar with keyword search, which relies on exact words and phrases. So, when you search for March sales report, you get a list of documents that include exactly those 3 words. But a semantic index understands that sales reports are produced by Kelly on the finance team and published each month as an Excel file. And it encodes all of these concepts and relationships between concepts in vectors in the index. Semantic Index for Copilot analyzes your data. That's all your emails, documents, calendar, chats, and more in the Microsoft Graph, and uses a large language model, or LLM, to map all your content and the relationships between your content and you, searching through billions of vectors to find the most relevant results in milliseconds. It's what enables Microsoft 365 Copilot to deliver personalized, relevant, and actionable responses, and do so in a secure, compliant, privacy-preserving way. Semantic Index for Copilot enables every organization to be AI ready.
So the semantic index, when you have it and when you don't have it, there's a noticeable difference not only with Copilot, of course, because it needs it, but even when you just do a general search. So take a look at this image that I have here. There's 2 searches for the exact same thing in the exact same organization. One person has Copilot, one person doesn't. On the left, we do not have Copilot. The search query, Project Melbourne Showroom, which is a typo. So without the semantic index, it doesn't know what it's talking about. So it says Project Melbourne Showroom, and then it gives a whole bunch of responses that have the term Melbourne in it. But I mean, this is facts about the city of Melbourne, not really what we're looking for. Melbourne is a code name. So on this side, same search query, it's saying including results for Project Melbourne ship room. Then it gives a brief summary Project Melbourne is a forward-thinking approach to blah, 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 blah from this PM specification document. But notice the PM document doesn't say Project Melbourne. So this is using and searching all of the Word documents, all of the things in the organization to bring up this information and create a unique semantic index for that user. It's giving us more relevant data. You want the ship room? Here's the ship room. Right there, PowerPoint, June 2024. And now I can see that this was shared by a member of my team 5 days ago because it knows who I am and the things that I've received. And even down here, frequently asked questions. No human made this, so I would argue they can't possibly be frequently asked, but that's another thing. What is the dependencies on Project Melbourne? When is it expected to finish? What's the budget? So it's able to generate common questions that it can then answer based on the information that it has access to, which is really quite fantastic. We can exclude things from this, and it's all about the user's access and, excuse me, what things appear in a search. So I can go in that SharePoint site and say, do you want to allow this site to appear in search results? Yes, no. If you select no, Copilot will have no idea what this is, and no one, regardless of their access level, will be able to do it. Okay, I'm going to skip these last 2 points because this next slide is even more important. I have a few implementation notes. When you go ahead and you assign a Copilot license to a user, a lot is set into motion. I want to talk through the expectations of time. After that is assigned, they will have access to Copilot in its kind of pure form within browser applications within about an hour. However, creating that semantic index of all of the fun data goodies that exist in the organization, that can take up to 3 days in order to complete, 24 to 72 hours. And it's not like a light switch. It just continues to get better and better with more and more rich responses until the semantic indexing is complete. I'll move back to this previous slide. When that is complete, you can look up the user in Microsoft 365's Admin Center, and you can see the semantic indexing is complete notification here right on that user's first screen. But the work isn't done. The Copilot button inside of the various Office applications, Outlook, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, that sort of thing, that takes a minute. It's a formal update to Office that needs to be pushed to that user. So 2 to 5 days is what we're saying in terms of the duration that it takes to get there. There are a couple of other key pieces that the customer as an organization must adopt. They must be on the current channel for Windows updates. We recall we used to have that well, we still do, the semi-annual channel where you don't receive updates quite as frequently. In the past, when we didn't have as much of this modernness, people needed to thoroughly test every single thing. They still do this in order to make sure that it's ready before they roll it out to users. You can't have that model and use Copilot. In order to have Copilot, the users must be able to receive updates as soon as they are pushed in the current channel. Also, data governance and security. This is something hopefully long before Copilot existed, the customer was already doing. We hope, we want to see that. But if they haven't been, and not all customers are great at this, they really should do that first before they get Copilot for their users, for the simple reason that I could ask Copilot, how much does Steve make in a year? And if Susan never protected that Excel file with everyone's salaries, and it's just there, Copilot will very helpfully respond with the answer. So data governance, really, really important. So all of these things I've been talking about is that default experience to Copilot for Microsoft 365. However, we have the unique ability to create custom Copilots, ones that are specifically built for an intended purpose within an organization. So I want to show you an example of this, specifically, and if you see in this video I'm about to play, the Copilot that's being built is to look at travel policies so that employees can interact with it and get live answers about even their own usage. Take a look at the screenshots and the flying virtual things inside of this video and you'll see what I'm talking about. So Copilot Studio, that's the name of the feature that we've created. If any one user has a Copilot license, then the organization has access to this incredible tool. This is an area where administrators can come in, build their own Copilots. So in that one example, an employee is curious, is this something that's allowed with our travel policy? Here's a Copilot that was built specifically to understand how that works. How much travel budget do I have left in this quarter? I can ask it that question. It can pull from the reports because all of that had been specified by someone in advance so that that can be used for that purpose. Copilot Studio, we're still seeing all of the wonderful creativity in the unique different ways in which this can be used to enhance business outcomes for customers. That is a bit about how Copilot works. Now, I want to show you some examples of Copilot in action, some things that you can do with it inside of our various apps. I'm going to start with Copilot in Microsoft Word. So here with this one, first things first, you stare at a blank Word document, you get that blinking cursor syndrome of, okay, where do I even begin? Copilot can really help with this. It can help to create rich content. So take a look at this video example. Draft a proposal for Van Arsdale, but make it based on these meeting notes in OneNote and this product roadmap document. It'll comb through all of that information to bring it together into one beautiful document that's enhanced with all of that rich data. Then, when we take this beyond Word, let's say we want to take this beautiful proposal, let's turn that into a PowerPoint. So here inside of PowerPoint, I can hit this Copilot button, say, hey, create a short presentation based on that Van Arsdale proposal in Word. Go, and then it will analyze that and draft it in line with the company's brand. This animation is quite quick, so I'm going to let it play one more time. This is relying, though, on you having a very clear slide master, which is the term for the template, basically, for the organization. It uses that to create something that's beautiful and on brand. Copilot's not only in Word and PowerPoint, we also have it in Excel. So here in Excel, we find a dizzying sheet of raw data. We can talk to this Excel file. We can interact with it. We can ask it questions. So here's an example of that. We'll open up Copilot. Here in the analyze this quarter's business results and summarize 3 key trends. Well, sales are trending up for all customers except for Proswear, which is down. Manufacturing costs are down, and the low discount products made up nearly half of the total sales last month. That's an impactful insight that I didn't have to go make a chart about. I didn't have to do too much. I just had to ask it a simple question, and I can get those answers immediately. Okay, let's talk about the #1 most popular by usage app. That is Outlook. We all have to use Outlook. And Catch Up with Copilot is a feature where when I come back from a vacation, I can click this button. I can see, oh, Shay is asking if you can present at the All Hands tomorrow. And Maya and the leadership team are discussing low revenue at the Canada plant and seeking investment. So I get a 1-sentence description, a summary of this very long email thread. I can see that Maya is not lost for words. Lots of words in our email, but I get a quick little preview of it right up here at the side. I can also use draft with Copilot. So Copilot can create, yes, a draft, not a final version. It's Copilot, not autopilot. So we definitely, anything ever written by the AI, we're going to want to make sure that we're double checking that and that it is truly how we want to represent ourselves. A couple of options down here: accept invitation thankfully, decline gracefully, might make it, will confirm later, and something else. And so you can ask it to even respond in a custom way, get a good draft of it, it'll write it in a new email form, make some changes, hit send, it's done. What about Copilot inside of a Teams meeting, like the one that we're in now even? There's some amazing things that we can do with Copilot here. I'll show you an example. Excuse me. Recap this meeting so far. It's already in progress. Samantha's late. She arrives. You can see, okay, renewable energy time, lead time is long. They're talking about the packaging. How does the group feel about inventory status? Well, the group seems to have mixed feelings about the inventory status. On one hand, they're happy, but on the other hand, they're worried. Oh, okay. And so this can give us live insights. This is really useful because at the end of the meeting, I can go into the same side panel and say, generate the meeting notes. And using the totality of the transcript of the entire meeting, it will then summarize. It knows who's speaking because it knows which input it's coming from. So it can say, Beth said this, and Crystal said this, and here's the action items, and your action items are X, Y, Z. We have that ability here inside of this Teams meeting, all through that Copilot panel. All of this comes alive when someone's assigned a Copilot license. All of these are examples of Copilot within something else. What if we just want to talk to Copilot? You can do that inside of Microsoft Teams. Inside of Teams, I have Copilot chat, or I can just simply talk to it. You can also do this in Copilot for Windows by switching from web to work mode, which you can only do if you have a Copilot license. So you can see here, a quick example of this. Pull up key data from our Q1 projections and any risks that we should consider. All right, well, here's those Q1 projections, gathering data. Here's even a chart. Q1, revenue, cost of goods, gross profit, EBITDA. Here are some internal and external factors impacting these projections. So, really useful stuff to instantaneously summarize that based on it. And I didn't have Excel open. I can just talk to Copilot about any old thing that happens to exist on my company's server, or I should say Microsoft server in the cloud, here using Copilot. Those are just a couple of examples of Copilot in action. So to round out our time, I want to tell you a bit more about how we are showing up with Copilot, how we can position and sell it with customers. We have an interesting statistic here. A staggering 87% of organizations believe that AI is going to give them some form of competitive edge. An interesting statistic because it is physically impossible for 87% of companies to have a competitive edge over each other. So everyone is really wanting to get on board with this. So these are some stats that we can share with customers to help make the case. We had been studying the efficacy of Copilot. Is it doing its job? Is it making people even more productive? Well, according to the users, they feel that it is. 64% spend less time processing email, 71% less time on mundane tasks, 85% get to a good draft first, a good first draft faster, which is good to see. We're seeing a great opportunity with AI. We're looking at 190 million addressable seats. So showing up, positioning this with those customers now is an important thing to do, and a lot of people have already been taking us up on it. So how much is it? Let's talk about the costs and how those costs are paid, another interesting distinction. Looking here, Copilot for Microsoft 365 as a license costs $30 per user per month. However, you cannot buy it per month. That is marketing. The actual cost is billed annually, $360 per user at once. It cannot be ended midway through. Once you commit to a license, it is committed for that full year. Of course, it can be reassigned, though, to somebody else. There are some prerequisites to assigning this license to somebody. So here's a couple of those. Microsoft 365 Business Premium, Business Standard, E3 and E5 licenses, all of these work, including Office 365, E3 and E5. However, it must be in the new Commerce Experience, NCE, which a lot of you are probably familiar with. So those legacy CSP licenses will not work with Copilot. We need to get them into the new Commerce Experience. Also, on-premises Office, Office 2021, Office 2019, that fully packaged product or perpetual license, you will not have Copilot capabilities with those solutions. Copilot for Microsoft 365 is for commercial, not yet for government. We're working on it. This is something that we hope to bring much sooner, but for now, it is purely for business customers. There's a lot that goes into making sure things are good for our government customers. However, we have launched Copilot for education. There is another license out there that has some AI features to it. That is Microsoft Teams Premium. So I want to specify the differences between these two things. And instead of this Venn diagram, I want to show it to you in a screenshot. When you have a Teams Premium license assigned, you do get what's called the Intelligent Recap. This will give you the notes. Oh, I should say the notes, the AI notes. Serena wants to look at the project roadmap before she and Danielle commit to feature enhancements. Danielle explains blah, 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 blah. I could see that here. That you get automatically with the Teams Premium license and do not have to have a Copilot license to get AI-generated meeting notes. However, those AI-generated meeting notes only know that meeting. The AI is fed that transcript, generates notes based on it. When we're using a Copilot for Microsoft 365 license, I can give it the same prompt. I can say, generate meeting notes in this side column instead. And I think a bit frustratingly, you'll get better notes. The Copilot for Microsoft 365 has more context, so when I ask it for notes, it understands the rest of the organization, who typically does what, and I can get some really robust notes. And also I can ask questions, any question about this meeting time that had happened, and get those results, sometimes even in a chart you can see here in this response from Copilot. This option and this whole sidebar will not appear if the user has Teams Premium only. They'll need to have a Copilot license in order to see it. As with any of the things that we sell, of course, it's the total picture that makes up the total amount of expected revenue for you as a partner. So it starts with Copilot for Microsoft 365 licenses. But under the surface, there's a lot of other services that we are looking towards our partners, you, to provide, and that we want to help you, we Ingram Micro want to help you to provide. So when we think about adoption services, this is a huge thing. What are the use cases that customers will need? That's a value-added service. Data security and data management, data classification, data integrity, making sure that sensitive information is protected in the organization, just a good thing to do in general. This might prompt them to want to invest in it. That is also a value-added service. AI enhancements, building new Copilots in Copilot Studio. Graph connectors, power automations, and even plugins for Copilot, helping to explain those to users can be really helpful, or to customers, I should say. We have a few resources that I want to make sure that we leave you with. You can see them here on the screen, aka.ms/M365 Copilot Partner. That will take you to a page with specifically partner-oriented information, and we've just put that there into the chat. Perfect. And then adoption.microsoft.com/Copilot. That is a useful link for how a customer can convey to their users that this new fancy thing is coming out. We've even written emails on behalf of the customer company to their own users that have pretty Copilot branding and much, much more to help make that transition even easier. So that is our story, everybody. Those are the things we came to do. We did them, and we're grateful for them. So there is one last thing that I need from you.